Okay, so this was the assignment that was given to you guys in the previous session, and today we will go through the solution. So, okay, so before that, we're gonna do a simple review on frequent issues done by coders. So, let's take a look at that one by one. So first of all, the signature of the main method cannot be modified. This format has to be maintained. So we all know that the main method has a void method. So in this way, the main method cannot return anything. So you guys don't try to modify this main method by changing this to a method that can return something. For an example, you guys don't replace the void with integer. If you guys replace something like that, if you guys try to run the program, then in the console output, you guys will have an error. So the next frequent issue is, if you declare that the method is not void, then it has to return something. So in this example, we have declared this method as a return type method since we have put integer here. So if you guys put an integer here and then you didn't return anything, then the console output will show an error. So try to follow to this format. And the next frequent issue is, don't create duplicate variables with the same name. Here you can see we have created three variables which have the same name: salary, salary, and salary. So you guys cannot do that since the salary has been already defined here. So in order to differentiate, you guys, let's say, can do like salary underscore 1, and for this salary underscore 2, and for this salary underscore 3. So which would be easier to differentiate. So this is the solution for the previous assignment. And for the previous assignment, they have asked you to create a payment system to calculate payment for workers. And they have told you to include 4 of these requirements. And first, they have given the formula for the pay, which is hours work times base pay. Second, hours over 40 get paid 1.5 the base pay. And the third one, base pay must be no less than $8. And the last one, number of hours must be no more than 60. So let's go through this. First, they have created a void method, which means this method doesn't return anything. And the name of this method is pay. So we are going to calculate the pay of the workers. And then these are the parameters we are going to pass through this method. So what I mean by the parameters is, in the main method, we are going to insert the base pay and the number of hours worked. So by using 2 of these things, this method will calculate the pay for the workers. First, we have used the if loop. If base pay is less than 8, and then the system will print that you must be paid at least $8 per hour. So the function of this code is to allow the user to enter a valid base pay. So if the user enter a base pay that is less than $8, then the system will automatically print this statement. It won't go through the next codes. As if hours is greater than 60, system will print that you can't work more than 60 hours a week. So just like this base pay less than $8, if you guys key in hours that is more than 60, right? So the system won't go through this other codes, and then it will automatically print that you can't work more than 60 hours a week. So the function is to allow the users to enter a valid value. Okay, then let's go through this operation. As first, we have declared overtime hours equals to 0. Then if you look at this method, if hours greater than 40, overtime hours equals to hours subtract with 40. Hours equals to 40. So what do they mean by overtime hours? So basically, a worker needs to work minimum 40 hours. But if they work more than that, it is considered as overtime hours. So that is why they're subtracting the hours with 40. And this 40 is the minimum number of hours required by the workers to work. So double pay equals to base pay multiply hours. So base pay is the pay that they will regularly receive, and hours in this is 40. So since 40 is the minimum number of hours required by the workers to work, so this pay is actually the regular pay they are getting. And then let's take a look at this thing. Overtime hours multiplied with base pay multiplied by 1.5. So now we are calculating for the salary they get if they work more than 40 hours. So if you guys still remember, the second statement in the question, they ask for hours over 40 gets paid 1.5 the base pay. So that is why we are multiplying overtime hours with base pay and 1.5. So they will get 1.5 the base pay. By using this plus equals to, they are automatically adding this pay and then this answer. So and this line is they are showing the total amount of pay for the workers. Okay, so these are the three base pay and the hours for three workers. So let me go to the Java editor and see what are the output. Okay, so for this one, the base pay of the worker is 7.5. Guys, can you see my screen? Okay, so if you run this code in the Java editor, the first user, the base pay has 7.5, and then the number of hours worked is 35. So if you run through this value inside the program, you can see that you must be paid at least $8 per hour. So since the worker is paid 7.5, so that is why it cannot calculate the total pay. And then for the next worker, the base pay is 8.2 and the total hours work is 47. So these two values meet the requirement of the system. So that is why the system able to calculate this pay, which is $414.01. And then the third worker, the base pay has $10 and the number of hours worked is 73. And the system printed that you can't work more than 60 hours a week. So the total hours work didn't meet the requirement. So that is all for the assignment. So later on, you can go through this answer again in your presentation slides, which will be given. So let's do a recap what we have learned so far. We have learned variable and types, operators, type conversions and casting, methods and parameters, and if statement. So today's topics would be what is a good programming style, loops, and arrays. So the goal of a good style is to make your code more readable by you and by others. So basically, you are going to make your code to be understood by others also. So we are going to look at some tips that makes your code readable. So first of all, use good meaningful names. So in this example, they have declared a variable A1, A2, and B. This is considered bad because you don't know what is actually A1 and A2, B means. If you are the one coded this program, then you might know what is A1 and A2 all about. But then if others try to read your code, they won't understand. So, but if you look at this example, they have created first name, last name, and temperature. So you guys can see that for the variable name, they have given like a meaningful name that can be understood by others also. Next one is use indentation. So what is indentation? You can see that after the main method, when we go to the next line of code, you can see that there's a space here. And then in the if loop, after we have put the condition here, and then when we want to go to the next line of code, they have put a space here also. So this is called an indentation. And if you see this code without indentation, this code will look like this if you guys didn't put any indentation. So you guys can see that it is not neat and not organized compared to this code. The next rule is use white spaces. Put white spaces in complex expression. So in this example, they have given a formula to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius. But if you guys see this example, right, everything is cramped up in one space, so it is very messy. But then if you guys look at this formula, you guys can see that they have given spaces between each component. It's more easier for eyes to read it. And you guys also can put lines. You can see that after this line of code, when they want to go to the if loop, they have put a space here, so which looks more neater. But guys, don't put spaces for every line of code. So just use the white spaces in reasonable scenarios. And yeah, if you guys didn't put white spaces, this will what the code will look like, which is pretty cramped up. And then do not use duplicate tests. So you guys can see that here the base pay is repeated here also. So guys, this is actually not wrong, but then there's an alternative for this code, which is, so you guys can see that here the condition, they have removed the condition here. So basically this code and this code are the same. So for the summary of good programming style, use good names for variables and methods, use indentation, add white spaces, don't duplicate tests. So now we'll take a look at loops. Okay, in this main method, they are trying to print a statement called rule hashtag number 1, 2, 3. So they have given a scenario. What if you want to do it for 200 rules? You don't want to print it one by one in the main method, which will give you a headache. So that is why we have loops in Java. Loop operators allow to loop through a block of code. There are several loop operators in Java. So first of all is the while operator. So this is the format for while operator. When you create a while loop, you need to have a condition here, and under the while loop, you need to have these statements. So basically guys, this loop will continue to loop until this condition becomes false. So let's take a look at an example. Okay, here they are trying to print the previous example, but then they are trying to print until 3. So that is why the condition is I is less than 3. And then guys, there's something wrong with this code. So I give you guys about 20 seconds. Can you guys point out what's wrong with this code? And you guys just put give your answer in the chat box. Since nobody was able to find the mistake, okay, so you know that this codes in Java are executed line by line. So let's take a look at this code line by line. First, they have declared an integer I equals to 0. Then they are using the while loop I less than 3. And then they are printing out the rule. And then they have this I equals to I plus 1. So guys, if you run this code right, first it will print rule hashtag plus 0. Since here we have 0, and then you know the code will be executed line by line. So that is why it will first print 0 here. Then after that, the I value is incremented by 1. Then it will print rule hashtag 1. So basically what I'm trying to say is this I equals to I plus 1 should be above this system, above this output code. Okay, you guys just need to switch the places. So that is actually what while operator means. And then another operator is the for. This is the format you guys need to use. First, you need to have the initialization, semicolon, condition, semicolon, and update. And then under the for loop is the statements. Okay, so this is the initialization, condition, and update. So let's take a look at this one by one. Okay, so from previous example, just like the previous example, here the I needs to be 1 since you don't want to print rule hashtag 0. Okay guys, so first, since I equals to 1 and then I less than 3, 1 is less than 3, then this line will be printed, and then we'll go through the condition again. Now, after you print out the rule hashtag 1, when you go back to the for loop again, the I will be incremented by 1. So now the I is 2. Is I less than 3 now? Yes, 2 is still less than 3. And then we'll go to the next code and we'll print out rule hashtag number 2. And then it will go to the for loop again. Here, before it goes through this condition, the I will be incremented again, and now the I is 3. So is 3 less than 3? No, since if 3 less than or equals to 3, then the condition will be true. But since 3 is not less than 3, then this for loop will stop. So that is basically what I mean by condition. If this condition becomes false, then this loop will stop. So now we are going to take a look at break branching statements. Break terminates the for or while loop. So now we're going to take a look at the function of break. So here we are trying to print rule hashtag until 100, and then if I is equals to 50, we have inserted a code break. So what I mean by break is if the I reaches 50, right, then the loop will terminate. So if you guys look at the output console, this loop will only print until rule hashtag 49 only. So if it reach 50, then it will break the code. So that is actually what they mean by break. Now we take a look at continue. Continue skips the current iteration of a loop and proceeds directly to the next iteration. Okay, so just like the previous example, they are trying to print rule until 100. So if I equals to 50, then the loop will continue. So basically, continue means it will skip the 50. So that means first it will print until rule hashtag number 1 until rule hashtag 49. Then if it reaches 50, it will skip 50, and then from 51 onwards, it will print until 100. So these two codes will be run in tutor session later. So you guys can see the output there. Okay. Now let's take a look at embedded loops. Embedded loops are for loops. There's a for loop under the for loop itself. So this might sound a bit difficult, but let me run this code in a Java editor and explain it in there. So give me a minute, guys. Okay. So this was the example given for the nested loop. So let's take a look at the example definition first. If you have a for loop inside the another for loop, it is known as nested for loop. So keep in mind that the inner loop executes completely whenever outer loop executes. So if we run this nested loop, then this is the output we are getting. So let's take a look at it one by one. Okay. So in the first line, for integer I equals to 0, I is less than 3. So is 0 less than 3? Yes, it is less than 3. So then it will go to the next line. Integer j equals to 2 and j less than 4. So is 2 less than 4? Yes, 2 is less than 4. Then it will print out the I space j. So if you guys see the output, it has printed 0 and 2. Okay. And then after that, it won't go through the first line again, but it will go through the second line first. So the second line, it will get the value of j will get updated first. So it will be incremented by 1. Now the value of j is 3. Is 3 is less than 4? Yes. So the system will print out a value of I and j. So in this case, it will be still 0. The value of I will be still 0 and 3. And then it will go through the inner loop again. And then it will update the value of j. It will be incremented by 4. So now the value of j equals to 4. Is 4 less than 4? No, it is not. So since the condition here returns false, then only it will go to the outer loop again. So when it goes to the outer loop, last time I was equals to 0. But after that, when we go to the outer loop again, it will get updated by 1. So now the value of I will be incremented by 1. Okay, is 1 is less than 3? Yes. And then we'll go to the next line of code. j equals to 2. Is 2 less than 4? Yes, it is. And then it will print out value of I and j. So in this case is 1 and 2. So I hope you guys can get my explanation. But if you guys are still confused about it, in tutor session later we have another example for nested loop. So yeah, don't worry guys. So let me go back to the slide again. So that is all for the for and while loops. So now we're gonna look at arrays. It's a different component. So an array is an index list of values. You can make an array of any type, integer, double, string, etc. All elements of an array must have the same type. Usage: store multiple variables in a single variable instead of declaring separate variables for each value. So basically what they mean by array is you can make a list. So basically if you want to create a list of marks got by students in a specific class, then you can use the integer array or double array. If you guys want to store a list of names, then you guys can use the string array. So that is basically the function of arrays. So now let's take a look at how array is stored in memory. So here are the values of the array. You guys can store how many elements you want in an array, and then each index of array stores a certain value. So okay guys, a minimum value of index that can be in an array is 0. So that means right here you can see in this example you guys just assume that there are 4 elements here, 1 2 3 4. Okay, but then each element has their own index value. For the first element, the index value would be 0. It won't be 1. The index always starts with 0. You guys need to understand the concept of index, so later on it will be useful for you guys. And bear in mind that if the last element in an array, the index value would be n minus 1. So n is the size of the array. So if you guys have a size of array which is 5, the array has 5 elements, then the last element in the array, it will have the index value of 4. Okay, so yeah, in this example, there are 4 values here: 5.0, 2.44, 9.01, 1.0. This is a double array. And then if you guys see that, you can see that in the first element, the value of index given is 0, 1, 2, 3. And then for the last element, it will be n minus 1. N is equals to number of elements inside the array. So as I said before, the index starts at 0 and the ends at length minus 1. Okay. So here we have created an integer array. And then this would be the size of the array, 5. So after this, we will teach you guys how to create an array, initialize an array. So this example is gonna make you more clear about the concept of index. So you guys want to add number 12 inside the array at the index 0. So basically you guys are making number 12 as the first element inside the array. So which is correct. And then the next is you're gonna guys put 12 as the last element of the array, because index 4, so the total size is 5. That means the last element has the index value of 4, since you guys will do n minus 1. So which is correct also. But if you look at this, they are trying to put 12 at the index value of 5. But in this array, it doesn't have index 5, since the maximum value of index this array will have is 4. So if you guys try to run this program, it will throw an error. Types of array that will be discussed in this session are one-dimensional array that store a single sequence of elements and has only one index. Two-dimensional array that contains another array and it has 2 index, can be represented by a 2 times 2 matrix. Usage: very helpful when doing matrix related calculation. So don't worry guys, we are going to take a look at these examples. Oh, before that, we are going to teach you how to create an array. An array is defined using type. So you guys need to put this symbol if you want to create an array. So first, you guys need to identify what kind of data type you want to create for the array. So in this case, it's integer. Then you need to put this symbol. This is the symbol for array. And then you guys need to give value for it. Arrays are just another type which can be used to declare two-dimensional array. So you guys can see that here they have put two symbol of array. So the first symbol means row, the second symbol means column. So basically by using two-dimensional array, you can create matrix. The first one is for row, the second one is for column. Okay. To create an array of a given size, use the new operator. So after you have identified the type of data you want to use, and then you have given the name for the array, then you need to use the new operator to assign a size for the array. So you guys need to follow this format. So in this example, we can see that the values array have the array size of 5. Okay. Or you may use a variable to specify the size. So in this example, we have straight away put the number 5 inside the array, but you guys can declare it in another code, integer size equals to 12. Then later on, you can create the array integer values equals to new integer, the array size of 12. So yeah, this actually more easier since you are using one line of code. You guys need to follow this format in order to create an array. Curly braces can be used to initialize an array. It can be only used when you declare the variable. Okay, here they are declaring a one-dimensional array and then a two-dimensional array. So they have created an integer array value. So we are going to store integers inside. So you can put the elements inside this array just like this: 12, 24, negative 23, 47. So in this case, they have put 4 elements, but it is up to you guys. You guys can put how many you want also. And then this one is for initializing a 2D array, two-dimensional array. So first will be the first row, and then if you want to go to the next row, you need to use this comma. Okay, you guys cannot put a semicolon if you want to go to the next row. And then yeah, this is the second row. Yeah, this is the format for initializing a two-dimensional array. Okay. So quiz time. Is there any error in this code? Okay, so it's actually quite easy. So you guys can see that we have created an integer array, but then inside this array, they have put a 2.5 and 3.5, which are Boolean values. So as I said before, if you give an integer array, that means inside the array you can only store integer. Okay, you cannot put any other elements inside the array. Accessing array. To access the elements of an array, use the array symbol operator, values and index. So basically, if you want to get a specific element inside an array, you guys can use this formula to obtain the element. So here they have created an integer array which have 4 elements. So let's take a look at this line. Now they are trying to access the element at the index 1. So if you guys look at this, 0, 1, 2, 3, which one have the index 1? So it is 24. And then, okay, they're adding 24 with 3. So that is why if you guys try to print this program, you guys will get 27. Oh yeah, this one, they are trying to access, okay, yeah, that's all. In this line, they are trying to access the element at the third index. So if you guys look at these elements inside the array, 0, 1, 2, 3. So 18 has the value of third index. So that is why the system will print 18. So you guys need to remember this format to access the elements. Okay, now we'll be learning how to access elements inside a two-dimensional array. To access the elements of two-dimensional array, we use this formula: values, row, column. So that means you guys need to give the index for the row and index for the column. So the first row, the index is 0, and for the second row, the index is 1. So bear in mind that the index always starts with 0, okay? So that means for the column, right, this one, the index is 0, 1, 2, 3, okay? Note on the use of bracket to differentiate the row, okay? So for each row, you guys need to use the curly bracelets, okay? Then use the comma, and you guys also need to have the opening and the closing of the curly braces, okay? So remember that. Okay, so this is an example. So they are trying to access the element at with the row index of 0 and column index of 0. So row of index of 0, that means it would be row number 1, and then row index of column index of 0, sorry. So this will be the column index 0. So that is why that 12 will be printed out, since it is at row 0 and column 0. So that is basically the function of index, to access elements and something like that. The length variable. Each array has a length variable built in that contains the length of array. So you guys can use this method to know what is the size of or the length of a array. So here we have created a array name value, and the size is 12. So you guys can first you want to know the size of this array. So first you declare the variable size, and the data type is integer. And then the values is the name of the array, and then you dot length it inside your Java editor. So basically, if you guys print out this table, then it will return 12. And for this one, same as the previous example, it is another array values 2 with with 5 elements inside it. And you guys want to know the size of this array. So first, you guys put the name of the array, and then you dot length it, and then the system will return 5 elements. Okay. So you guys can also access the size for the 2-dimensional array. You can use the length variable to access the number of row and the number of column for each row. To access the number of row, so they have created a 2-dimensional array with 12 rows and 3 columns. Okay. So first we are trying to access the number of row. So the number of row is same as the for 1-dimensional array. You guys can just use the values dot length method. Okay, this is the dot length method. So it will return the number of row 12. But if you want to access the number of column, in this example, access number of column for row 2. Okay, so you guys can see that they have first they have put the name of the array values, and then inside the array symbol they have put 2 dot length. So what do they mean by this 2 symbol, right? Is the row. So here they are trying to get the number of column at the third row. Okay, so the column number is 3. So string arrays, a side note. So this is basically a recap. So this used to get the size of an array, and this one is to access the elements inside the array. Combining loops and array. So guys, there are some examples here. You guys will be taught this example in the tutor session. So now I'll be passing this session to the tutors. Okay. Oh guys, if you guys have any question, just pop it in the chat box. My team and I will try our best to answer the question. Okay, don't be shy, guys. We are all here to learn something new, so don't be shy. Just ask any questions you want. Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, I believe all of you can see it. So my name is Tring. I'm going to be one of the tutors for today's session. So first, I'm going to demonstrate using the while loop. So last time, if we are going to print out like rule number 1 to rule number 10, what we are going to do is maybe I will like copy this code and then I paste it for 10 times, and then I'm going to change this number to 2, 3, 4, 5 until 10. But then if we are going to print it for 100 times, it will be very hassle. So we need to use a loop to make it easier. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate how to use the while loop to print it out. So first, we're going to initialize a variable first. So maybe we call it as a, and then equals to 1, because we're going to start the print from rule number 1. Okay, and then for the while loop, we are going to use the while operator. Okay, so when this condition remains true, so this code, the statement inside here will keep on iterate until this is false. So for this case, the condition we're going to set it as a less than equals to 100. Then we're going to print it out something over here. So guys, actually there's some error inside here, although it doesn't show, because that if I'm going to run this code directly, it's going to form an infinite loop. So it will keep on print like rule 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 until endless time, because that this a is always 1 and 1 is always less than or equals to 100. So you must remember to increase the value of a after you print it. So we need to use a plus plus. So every time after you check the values of a, check the condition, it will print, and then it increase the value of a by 1, and then check again, print until when it reaches 101, it will stop. Okay, let me show you the output. All right, so as you can see, we will print this other output. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate. This is for while loop. I'm going to demonstrate the for loop. Let me comment out this first. Okay, so for the for loop, we don't have to initialize it before we're using the type of the for operator. So we just directly use it, and then we set I to 1, and then make the condition less than or equals to 100, and then the same, we are going to print this out. So, but this time we don't have to increase the value after we about this print statement, because it will check, it will increase at here. So, show again. All right, so these are the output. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what happened if I is equals to 50. I want to break out from this loop. I don't want to print anymore. So what I can do is I'm going to use the break statement. Yeah. So that means that when I increase until it becomes 50, so the whole loop will be will end. Yeah, so as you can see, it stopped at rule number 49. Be careful, it doesn't print out the rule number 50, because that after when it reaches 50, it will break. So it will not print out the rule number 50. But you will say like, what if I just want to skip the number 50? I want to print out the rest of it. So what we can do is we use the continue statement. All right. Okay, now you can see that. So this is 49, and then it will skip the 50 and then continue to print from 51 until the end. All right. So this is for the for loop. And then now it comes to the embedded loop, or sometimes we call it as nested loop. So what it use, actually normally we will use the embedded loop to print some pattern number. So in this case, I'm going to use 2 for loop to print out this pattern number. So it's the same. We're going to use the for operator. And then we set it as 1 first, because the first for loop is going to print out the row. Okay. And then we have another for loop inside here. This for loop will print out the element inside column, right? So the first for loop is for the row, and then the second for loop will be for the column. So, and this time I'm going to set it, because we know that in this case, it will end at row number 5. So we will make this as equal to 5. And then for this one, I will set it as 1 as well, because this second for we are going to print out this number inside this. And then for this case, we know that the number of the element is following the number of the row. Like this is row 1, and I will print number 1 only. And this is row 2, I will print 1 and 2. Row 3, I will print 1, 2, 3, and as well. Continue. So what I will set here is I will set j less than or equals to I. And then we are just going to print it out here. And I run it. Okay, now you can see what's happening now is where is my pattern loop? Okay, it's because at here, instead of using print line, we're going to use print. Okay, if we are using print line, that means that after you print out the j, and then the next j, it will be printed in the next line. So to avoid that, we will use print so that the next element will remain at the same row. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so this is what you will get. Yeah. Okay, so actually you can like make it upgrade this question a bit. Like maybe you could ask the input from the user, like how many rows you want to print. So you use the scanner class, and then here this 5, instead of just typing the numbers, you change it to the input number. So like if the user wants to print out 10 rows of this, so we can just print out. Okay, and so this is for the embedded loop. So now let's move on to array. Okay, first I'm going to demonstrate you how to declare an array. So to declare an array, we will start out with the one data type first. So for example, we use integer, and then followed by this bracket, and then we give another name. Maybe we call it as a ARR to represent array, and then we need to use the new operator, and then continue with the integer array here. Okay, this is how we declare an array. And normally inside this this square bracket, we are going to give the size of the array. So maybe you can put it as a number, but normally what we will do is we'll assign another variable, maybe called size, like 5. So right here we will put as size. So inside this ARR array, it has a length of 5. Okay. So now if I want to give a value to the element inside the array, for what you can do is you type the array name, and then followed by this square bracket, and then inside this square bracket, it's going to put the index number inside this array. Like for example, I put 2, and then I'm going to assign a value of 11 inside it. Okay, and then maybe I give another one. Okay, next I want to give the last element. So maybe like 20. Okay. So, and then I'm going to print out this. Okay. It's good, right? Okay, let's run it. Ayo, what happened? Why my IDE doesn't show any error, but then it cannot print out the number 11 and 20? It's supposed to be printed here. Why? It's because you see index 5 out of bounds for the length 5 at array. Okay, so for this case, the maximum size, the size of the array is 5. So as you remember, that's the maximum index number for each array will be the length of the array minus 1. So at this time, I'm assigning index number 5, which does not exist inside this array. So what we can do is normally, like if I'm going to put 4, or sometimes if you don't know the size of the array, what we can do is we use the array name and then dot length, okay, minus 1 to print out the last element of the array. Okay. So now let's see. Now, so it will print out the element inside this. Okay. So this is about declaring an array. So how about initialize an array? So to initialize an array, it's the same. Also, we give a data type first, followed by this square bracket, and then we give a name, for example, v1 for this. And then what's the difference between declaring and initialization? So we're going to use the curly braces, and then we directly put the element inside this. Maybe I will put 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So this is how we are going to initialize an array. We will directly put the element inside this square bracket. So I'm going to show you for string array as well. Actually, string array will be the same. So we are just going to use string and then continue with this array. And then we give a name, for example, arguments. The difference between integer and string is, remember, we need to use a double quotation mark to print to assign the element for the string array. Okay, so others will be the same. Okay. Okay, now let's move on to 2D array. How are we going to initialize a 2D array? So 2D array is we're going to put two over here, and then also the same, we give the name v2, and then curly braces, maybe like 1, 2, 3, and then remember we need to use a semicolon to show that it's the next element. All right, I show here. Sometimes we use the 2D array to print some matrix or some maybe and something like this. So how are you going to know the size of 2D array, because it's a bit different from the one-dimensional array? So for the row, right, we need to want to know the size of the row of the array. Okay, maybe we can do it like v2.length. So this is going to show that gives us the length of the row of the array. So in these cases, it will have, if I'm going to print it out, it will return the value of 3 because it has 1, 2, and 3 rows. Okay, so this is easy. But how about for column? So for column, right, actually what we can do is we will use v2. Actually, the size of column 2D array is same as the length of the row. So this shows that if I want to know the first, if the row number 1, how many columns it have. So this column, this will give an answer of 3 because it has 1, 2, 3 columns inside the first row. If you want to know the size of the second row, you use 1 and then it will show 2. Okay, that's it. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to print an array. So instead of we just going to print it out one by one, we are going to use the for loop. Okay, we use the loop to print out an array. So maybe I can take an example from here. Okay. In this, okay, how can I print all of these elements inside the loop? So we're using a for loop. And then remember to make it as print, because if you use print line, the element will be printed in the next line. Okay, so I'm going to explain this code. So we will going to use this one, I is equals to 0, because that we will use this to represent the index number. We're going to print all the elements using the index number respectively. So it will start from 0, which is this, and then it will be less than the length of the array, which in this case it will be 5, right? So okay, and then we assign the index number to a certain value. Okay, so this will represent the index, the element inside each index number, and then we're going to print it out. Okay, so this will be the result. Okay, I forgot to put a space over here. Okay, so this is how we are going to print a 1D array. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to print a 2D array. So now maybe let's print this. Sorry, before to show this 2D array, let me show you how to print an array using a while loop. Okay. So to print an array using a while loop is the same. We're going to initialize a value first. Maybe I is equals to 0, and then we use the while, and then the condition will be I less than equals to v1 outline. So this will be the same. You just print it out. So this is the difference between while loop and for loop. Basically, they are just the same, okay? So to print out a 2D array, it's a slightly different from the 1D because we are going to use 2 for loop to print out a 2D array. So it's the same. The first for loop, we're going to print out the row of the array, and then the second for loop is we're going to print out the columns of the array. Okay, the difference between the first and second for loop is we're going to print using this. This will represent that because like this, the index number for this element number 1 will be 0, 0, so that this will be j less than v2, and then the length of the row to print out the element. So so this is how we're going to use how we are going to print a 2D array. And that's all from me, and I'm going to pass this session to another tutor, Yifeng. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I'm Yifeng. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good.
But your voice is a bit low. Try to speak down.
Oh, sorry. Okay, is it clear now?
Bro, a bit more.
Hello?
Okay, yeah, okay.
Okay. Today I will be demonstrating code cleaning, efficient programming, and some of the applications that on some concepts that you all have learned. So the activity we are going to do today is to list the prime numbers. So what is a prime number is actually a number that is not divisible by any number, excluding one or itself. So in programming, how are we going to implement this code? So we are going to modulus this number by any number, and if it is not equals to 0, then it is a prime number. So for example, we have 50. 50 is my number here. Okay, so 50 modulus 2 equals to 0. So basically it means that 50 divided by 2, we will get no remainder. So 50 is not a prime. So the second example is 3 modulus 2 is equals to 1. Because the remainder is 1, so we know that 3 is a prime number. So in this activity, our input will be the user's upper bound, and the output will be to print all prime numbers between 0 to upper bound. So say my number is 50, so we are going to print all the prime numbers from 0 to 50. So I'm going to set up my ID. Okay. Okay. So how are we going to implement this code? Okay, first of all, we are going to obtain the input from the user. So this is where we use the scanner class. So scanner s equals to new. So I will store this value into an int, and the name is up, and I assume that you know up is equals to upper bound. So first step, we are done. So second step, to iterate all the values. So we are using a for loop here. So after we set up the for loop, we assume that every number is a prime. So Boolean. So I'm using IP, stands for is prime, so I assume that you know IP is equals to is prime. And then, so we know that the number 0 and 1 is not a prime. So we take care of this condition. So else we will need to divide the number by the divisor. So the divisor is basically from 2 to the number minus 1. So let's say my number is 50, so we will be doing 50 modulus 2 equals to 0, then we check. 50 modulus 3 equals to 0, then we check again. So we will iterate this code from 2 to 49, so which is the number minus 1. So for loop, so after we set out the for loop, if this number is modulus any number equals to 0, then we know that it is not a prime. Else, if after the for loop we know that the number is a prime, then we print the number. So yeah, that's the code. So let's run the code. So my upper bound, I put it as 50. So as you can see, we are printing the prime numbers from 2 to 47. So now we know that the output is correct, but what is wrong with this code? So the first problem is the code readable? Is it really understandable by other programmers? So what are we going to do? So we are going to uh, make some changes in the namings. So as you can see, the naming here is rather unclear, so we are going to change it. So let me copy this so you as reference. Okay, so we are changing this code. So the easy way to change the variable names is you go to edit, then you go to find and replace. So then you type. Let's say I want to change the name IP to is prime. So there you go. And okay, N1. What is N1? So it is the number. And what is D? We must clarify it. It is a divisor. So already the code looks more understandable now. And the next thing is spacing. The spacing here is pretty good. And simplification. So simplify. So as we can see from this code, this else statement is not necessary. So we can remove that. And then we can do code formatting as well. So the hotkeys is Control Alternate L. So if you press this combination of keys, the IDE will basically format the code for you. So we run the program again. Okay. So okay, that is it on code cleaning. But is there a more efficient way to execute this code? Okay, so we are adding a break statement. So as you can see in this example, 50 modulus 2 is equals to 0. So we already know that 50 is not a prime number. So is there any point on iterating further, like as we did from here, 50 modulus 2 modulus 3 all the way to 49? So is there any point to iterate further? No. So we are adding a break statement here. So once the system found out that the number divided by divisor is equals to 0, then the each point is equals to false, then we break the loop because we already know the number is not a prime number. Okay, so by doing this, you are actually eliminating, in this case, eliminating 48 iterations in total. So that is a lot. So how can we improve this code? So another thing is that we know that the multiplication of 36 is 2 times 18, 3 times 12, blah, 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 blah. And you can see from this here and here, it's actually the same thing, but is in reverse. So where is the cutting point? So the cutting point is at the square root of 36. So we just need to loop this. We just need to tell the system that we are looping from 2 to the square root of this number. Then this whole part is not necessary. For the other example, like let's say 77 is equals to 7 times 11. So basically we are finding the square root of 77. So it will give us a number of 8. So we are basically iterating from 2 to 8 instead of from 2 to 76. So by doing this, you are eliminating 70 iterations. So how we are going to implement that in our code? We are using the method from the Java. From the Java. So sqrt is square root, and floor is to find the the integer below the floating points. Like let's say 8.775. We put the floor method, then we will get the number 8. So let's implement this code into our program. So I will code it as double because you are getting floating points. So double. So then we will put this max divisor as the upper bound of this for loop. So the system will iterate from a divisor equals to 2 to the divisor less than or equals to the square root, so equals to the max divisor. So okay, so let's run the program again. Okay, so okay, this code is very good already. Then we need to improve this code further by considering the special case. So if I can tell you that I am going to reduce the search number by half, how are we going to do that? So we know that 2 is the only even number in the prime list. So we just have to increase, in this update, we increase it by 2. So we start from 3, then we increase by 2. So I'm basically checking 3, 5, 7, 9 instead of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. So, so since 2 is the special case, so we are going to explicitly code it. So if the upper bound is more than or equals to 2, then we need to print 2 in the prime list. So if so this num plus plus will become num plus equals to 2. So my initial will be 3. So this code is not needed because we are already checking upper bound. We are already checking from 3. So basically, it means that when the upper bound is more than 2, then we just print 2. Then we start from 3. We start from 3 to the upper bound, and we are increasing each loop by 2. So this time I'm using 3. Then the next loop will be 3 plus 2 equals to 5. So I will be checking 5, 7, 9, and so on, so on. So, okay, the last bit. The last bit is to reduce the embedded or nested for loop, because in real-time situation, basically a nested for loop is sometimes not practical, because if you code a very large program, if you are using nested for loop, the code will be very hard to read. So it is sometimes not practical. So we are going to use the methods to improve the readability of this code. So I'm going to take this part to put in a method. Okay, so so this will be the end result. So I will uh, explain. I will explain this code again. So in the first part, we are getting the user input by using the scanner class. Then we print enter upper bound to from the user to enter the upper bound. Then we store the upper bound into this value. So we check if the upper bound is more than or equals to 2, then we just print 2. Or else we will start from 3, we'll check from 3, and we'll update the loop by adding 2 in each loop. So in this loop, I will be checking whether the number is a prime number. So let's look at the prime method. So prime method is taking a number and is returning a boolean. So is this number a prime number? So we will declare the max divisor. Then we will check the number. If the number modulus any divisor between 2 to the max divisor, if there is any if this equals to 0, then we know that the number is not a prime number, else it is a prime number. Okay, so if this condition, if this prime is true, then we just print out the number. Okay, so let's test the program for the last time. Okay, there you go. Yeah, that is pretty much it. Oh, another thing is to allow you to compare. This is the first code that we implement. It looks very messy, unreadable, and is not efficient. So look at the new code. It is arranged properly, very efficient, and very understandable. Okay. Okay. Okay, that's our activity. Anyone else would like to add on? Guys? Hello? Okay. Okay, just a reminder. Okay, the materials are already up in the website, so if you want to check it out, you can visit our websites, and the recorded video will be uploaded on YouTube in a few days. We will inform you about that. Then, and also remember to follow our social media. Thanks. Okay, that's it for me. Okay.
All right, and thank you guys for joining us. And let's just get to the recap as soon as possible. Are you liking the session so far? How's the sessions? Are they digestible? Are they understandable, guys? Are you comfortable with the pace? Yeah? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So I'm glad that you like it. If you have any opinions, any suggestions, any issues you might have, please feel free to inform us, and we'll like to make it more comfortable and more interactive for you guys. Can I have a note for the list one question? And the TAs, please attend the chat. Thank you. All right, so let me get to the recap session. All right, so guys, this session we go into the basics one, and this sort of basics one, which is loops and arrays. These are our two main highlights. So basically, just start with it. Basically, loops are Java's way to execute a block of code multiple times based on the number you specify. So you've seen this happen directly in the for loop, right? So you say for this amount of numbers, execute this code over and over and over, right, guys? So before we go into the for loop, let me explain. We use loops, all right? We use loops to execute a block of code multiple times. We can either have a number of times that we want it to occur, or we can have a condition, and while that condition is not satisfied or satisfied, you can have both ways, all right? So based on that condition, keep iterating. A terminology for this session, all right, guys? The way that loops keep continuing, keep executing a command is called iterating. So we call that loops iterate, all right, guys? The terminology of loops. Going through a block of code is called iterating. You'll see the term iterating a lot if you research a bit about both loops and arrays and lists. Right, guys? So let's get to it. We have three kinds of loops. There's a while loop, a for loop, and the combination of multiple loops, which we call the embedded loops. So the while loop, as it sounds, is basically it keeps iterating until the condition is satisfied. All right, guys. To put it more simply, the loop will execute while the condition is true. All right, guys. So basically, they're very intuitive. We can use the terms like while and for to remember which is which. All right, guys. After that, we have the for loop. For loops keep going based on the number of times you assign it to execute if the condition is satisfied. To put it more simply, if the condition is satisfied, all right, guys, the loop will execute for n times. So you see this here. The number of times is based on here. This is the condition, and the number of times that you ask it to iterate. Okay. After that, we have the embedded loops. So basically, you learn that what for loop is, what while loop is, two different kinds of loops, right? So what are embedded loops? Embedded loops are basically when we have one loop inside the belly of the another. So when we have a loop inside another loop, we call it an embedded loop, which means we can have multiple nested loops inside other loops. What does the term nested mean? When we have one loop or method inside another method or loop, it's called nesting. Okay, so it's a nested loop here. Embedded loop is also referred to as a nested loop. After that, we have the break command. So you learned about two commands for the loops. One was break, the other was continue. Okay, so basically the break command is as it sounds. It's very simple. It breaks the loop. How does it break the loop? To perform a break, we add conditions. All right, guys, if and else. Okay, so to set the following scenario, if a condition arises in the while loop or the for loop, and while the loop is iterating, the condition includes a break command. The loop will break upon the satisfaction of the condition. Okay, so if we have, let's say, if we have, let me just demonstrate it quickly. If we have a condition like while true, whatever that condition is, okay, and we have this another condition, and don't worry about the words, I'm just showing you the default structure. And we have this condition, okay, and we are saying break upon the satisfaction of this condition. So the program will go like this. So it's in this line, okay, it reads whole while true, okay, it has a while loop and the condition. So it reads, basically Java reads line by line, as you remember. So it goes inside the loop and it sees this condition. So it goes into the condition. If the condition is also satisfied, it goes into the break. So when it breaks, it will jump out of the while loop and onto this line. Okay, so that's how we use conditions and the break command inside the loops. All right, so that's the basic structure that you can use the break command. Okay. After that, we have the continue command. Basically, the continue command simply skips element you set for it to continue iterating, as the tutors and lecturer demonstrated. For instance, we have the list of, we want to print 100 elements, okay? So if you say when the element is equal to 50, continue, it means that just print out every other number except for the number that you specified. So it skips that element that you have set. That's the briefing for loops, all right, guys? It's a simple but very useful element and function in the Java environment. Does anyone have any questions? Let me see. Yeah, I have a lot of tabs. Okay, so basically that's that. Loops are very important, especially when you go higher in the algorithm design, that which we will attend for you guys, both in simple beginner programming and advanced programming. Okay, so make sure that you practice with loops. Both while loops and for loops are very useful. All right, guys, let's get to the next part, the first step of our data structure session. We have arrays. Arrays are basically an index list. What does index mean? It means that we have this list of A, B, C, D, E, whatever, okay? So each of these elements have a number to it. It starts with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, till size -1. This is the index. This is how indexes work, okay? So what are arrays? Arrays is an index list of values, meaning it is a list with values in each index, right, guys? Two notes, two hints that you should consider when you're using the indexes and the arrays, okay? The index starts from 0 to the size of array -1. It doesn't start from 1 to size. It starts from 0 to the size of array -1. So if the array has a size of 10, the last index is 9, 0 to 9. All right, guys? So the type of array, the next thing that you should be very careful about when you're using arrays and when you want to spot errors in an array, okay, is that the type of elements which we can store in the array. So that's what type of array means. So if the array is type of string, the only value that is storable in the array is string. So if this is integer, the only value storable in the list in the array is the integer. All right, guys? So that's how types are used in the array creation. After that, we have this important note. Arrays can have more than one dimension. As you've seen, we demonstrated that an array having 2 dimensions. Next up, which is a very important info about arrays, which later on you will learn to appreciate, is that the size of an array is fixed after creation. So if the array is created with the number of 4 as the size, you cannot decrease nor increase the size of array afterwards. All right, guys? So it's fixed. You have to create either delete the original array or create a new one. How to access array elements? So if you want to access the elements of an array, basically the values of the array, you have to type in the array name, whatever it is, plus the bracket, plus the index inside the brackets inside the system.println. So if you want to, for instance, have the array int ARR, and you want to access index 2, basically you do this. System .println, inside here you say ARR, you put the bracket, so name of bracket and name of array plus the brackets, inside you put 2. Don't forget this semicolon. So basically by doing this, you print the element, that index of the array. Right, guys? After that, we have this very important note that I want you guys to practice afterwards the session, is that how these stuff, arrays, loops, how do they come together? So if I wanted to ask you to how to print the elements of an array one by one, how would you do it? So basically, just by doing this simple practice, you see how Java basically works, how you can use these functions as algorithm inside the Java JVM, right, guys? So imagine we want to print the elements of an array one by one, not like this, and not like this. We want them to be printed one by one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. Okay. So to do that, we have this for loop. Okay, and we have integer I equal to 0. So this is the basic format. Okay, and we in here, this is the condition: I less than the length of the array, and I incremented. Inside the loop, we have the system.out.println ARR index. So how does this actually work? So we set the index to 0, and we're saying print the index I of the array. So let's see if the program is run, it will work like this. So the first time, this is 0, so it will print the first index, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. If the size of the array is 5, it will stop after 4. Why stop after 4? Because this, as you said, indexes are starting from 0, not 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. See, 5 elements. All right, guys? So this is the way that you can basically iterate through a loop, iterate through an array, and print each of the elements one by one. That's the recap for our session. Any questions, guys? Any questions about arrays, loops, how you can use them, how you can use the functionalities, definitions, anything? Feel free to ask. We have a few minutes before we can dismiss the session. Also, make sure to do the practices that we send you, the assignments. Right. All right, guys. So one final thing before leaving. Have you guys practiced the login system? The login system from last session. Were you able to create a login system? Yes. If you wish to see the demonstration, please tell me to show it right now before we end our meeting. Would you like to see a demonstration? Yes. Because it's important, I want to show you how you can use conditions for things that you see on the web pages to see that how easy it is to use the functions in the real world and the function that you use every single day, like the security. Okay, so imagine this. We have this class and we have this main method. Okay, we have this string password. Okay, for now, I don't want to send any values to it. And we have this string input, right, guys? After that, we import the scanner. We import the scanner. All right, so here it is. We take the input. First, let's add some user interface. So please enter the password. So what happens now, we take the input for the password, which is input equal in dot next. All right, guys? So how up to now, it's very simple, very intuitive. You take inputs from the user. So how can you implement the security using conditions? So if password input dot equals to password sys out, you have log in. Log. Okay. So here you see this error. Why do we see this error? Because I haven't first this, and the second error is that I haven't set any values for password. Remember, no values here, so it doesn't know how it can be equal. If you see here, it says it hasn't been initialized. Okay, so when you want to use methods like this, like equals, you have to set the value for the one that you're comparing to. Okay, so right now let's set it. Imagine the password is I don't know, project J. Project J. Right, guys? So if the person is unable to do the password, just print out wrong password. Okay? And you can just use it to add new stuff like, I don't know, enter code black. Whatever you like, okay? So let's see it in action. So you see this interface. So let's input it. Project. Remember, it has to be case sensitive. So project J. Input that, and it says you have logged in. Let's run it, but this time I'm going to put in a wrong password. Okay. If I do that, pro. Okay. It will say wrong password, intercoded, whatever you want it to do. Okay. So this is the way that you can use. Now you've learned learned loops, right? And other loops. Okay. So let's say, and add the number of attempts. So integer num of attempt equal to three attempts. Okay. While not equal to 3, do this. guys? Or you can just ask for it 4 times, okay? So, and why don't we use for loop? Can anyone tell me why we don't use for loops? We use while? Can you tell me why we can't use while? Or if you use for, why, how can we resolve that using what you've learned from this session? Imagine you're creating a security system, a login system that takes input but gives attempts. Okay, so imagine you have 3 attempts based on loops and break command. How can you use it? Can anyone tell me? Anyone like to try? All right, so let me just show you guys. Keep close attention. So if the password is correct, you just say break. Get it? So you can either use while or loop. So let's use for, since it's easier to use. Okay, so basically, you won't even need to create a new variable. Easier to use, easier to implement. Okay, so it will take 3 attempts. After that, if you fail, it will exit. Okay, with the wrong password. All right. So let's try that. This will give you 3 attempts. If you input it right the first time, then you will get in person. So let's see. Project. See, you logged in and it ends the program. Why? Because you had this condition. If the password is correct, just break. Now let's see what happens if I input the password wrong. Let's say ABC. You can take multiple attempts. So let me just show you how you can take multiple attempts. And basically override this. So sometimes if you're trying to implement the number of attempts. So this is another thing that you'll find useful in the future sessions, is that how to take inputs inside loops. All right, guys, how to take inputs inside loops. So the beginner thing, before you understand the definition of override, is that you will try to use new variable. So for example, if you want to do that, you just create a new variable, string input, which is bad. You can just override this one, okay? You can basically just override this one. So this is the initial one, okay? And after that, you can add this. If the password was wrong, okay, take new input. So how can I do that? I just say input equal in dot next. So before we run it, because I want to teach you guys how to basically understand the code before you run it. So this is how the program Java sees it. Starts from main, goes inside main. It sees the variable skips, scanner skips. It arrives at the first thing that it needs to execute. System.out.println, please enter the password. So it print the password. Then it goes to this line, which is taking the input. It takes and asks for an input. You enter it, press enter. You go to the next line. It is a for loop. Okay, so after saying your for loop, it goes inside the for loop with consideration to the number of times it can iterate. So it sees a condition. If the input is correct from here, it will go inside the condition, print that you have logged in, and then it will end based on a break. But what if it's not equal? Okay, so it will jump to here, to the else. Okay, it will not go like this, like this, like this, then like this. It will go from here to here. Okay, so let's imagine that it inputted the password wrong. So it will just go to here, wrong password. But what did I do wrong? So if you remember from my last attempt, it just kept saying wrong password, wrong password, wrong password. Why? Because I didn't ask for the password inside the loop. So it has this, initial value, but it doesn't have any secondary value. So it's just remembering this, and it just does the same thing over and over and over. Prints it 3 times. And if I didn't have the break, if that printed, you have logged in, you have logged in, you have logged in 3 times. So the way that you can implement the actual functionality of taking inputs inside condition is to add the input again at the end of the loop. Okay, so let's see it again. Again, I'm going to input it wrong. See, it doesn't iterate 3 times. Wrong password, it gives me an opportunity to do it wrong. Of course, I'm not going to do it because I'm a bad guy, so just that. This is my last attempt. So what happens if I do this? Whatever you like, it will end. Okay? It will end after 3 times. Okay, 3 attempts. Basically, give us 4, but you can just decrease it to this one. Okay. 0, 1, 2. So what if in between the attempts, I'll input it right. So ABC wrong, BBBC wrong. Now the correct one. Project J. It will say you have logged in and end the program. So that's basically how your login systems work. They have these conditions and loops. The loop basically gives you number of attempts. So you can just keep doing the same function over and over and over based on the number. So usually your phones give you how many attempts, 5 attempts, 10 attempts, how many you like. Okay, so you set that. The programmer says that. How does the security gets implemented? The security of the program gets implemented using the conditions. So how did you implement the password? You use the conditions. See, if it's the same as the password, okay, great, you have logged in. Else, it's wrong. So guys, this is the basic format of a login system. In the field, would you like to see a large scale of how you can use login systems and an actual large scale with login, with everything? Would you like to see that? And you can actually learn to do that yourselves. Let me just view it for you guys. This is a project that I did before. Small thing, not very special. Let me just show it to you guys. Okay. So it's a large scale program, okay, based on a website, whatever you like. So let me just run it for you guys. And it's a bit more interactive. So it has a security. It takes login. So basically you can set your first name, last name, age, and it's dynamic. Why do I say it's dynamic? It will react based on your age and your gender. All right, guys, so let's see. Imagine I'll input my name every single time, okay? Every single time it will give you a different input. So I like to register. It will tell you, all right? So greetings, I'm the system, your blah, blah, blah. And would you like to start? Interval for yes and for no. Again, use of conditions to take inputs. So I say yes. First things first, let's register your name. So this is how a registration system on your website works. So let's say first name, last name, nickname, and age. So imagine I input different ages based on different ranges, it will react differently. So imagine I input 19, okay? My gender is M, and it will give you this unique line. So I'm a teenager, it will say you're teen, fire dude. See? Now let's see if I inputted it differently. So if I had inputted my gender as female and my age above 30, okay, this is what would have happened. My age, let's say 50. my gender female. It will say, so you're quite a vetted fellow, an unarmed man. So this is how interactive systems work. You can use the conditionals and inputs based on that, add interactiveness. So this is a good thing to notice because the more dynamic and interactive application is, the more the users will be comfortable and interested in it. So if a program is stiff, it has just these static inputs, same result every single time, it will decrease from the attention it receives. But if it has dynamic, it will add an element of intelligence to it. So if the program understands the difference from male, from female, it adds an element of dynamicness and interactiveness. If it understands what different ranges mean, what seniors, juniors, or teenagers, or adults mean, it will add an element of attractiveness and intelligence. Okay, so that's basically how very, very beginner AIs work as well. So let's continue on. It says, okay, so this program was for selecting a library of engineering systems. So imagine, I'm trying to select. So this is a simulator for engineering systems for teaching. So I'm higher education. Based on that, it will give an explanation division. So let's say I'm industrial division. It will give this. It will ask you if you want to continue or not. You say yes. Based on the element, let's say aerospace engineering. Goes in. You can use, I don't know, would you like to use, let's say, IB. So here you have this probably see like same as here. Run, share, join lobby, whatever. Okay. So you input load project. It will show this number of samples. Okay. So let's say B3. It's not in here, but it's a fun thing that you can have. So B3 is this special thing, secret, like an Easter egg inside the system. So you can basically, this is something that programmers also use inside their games, inside their programs. It's like this, how would you say? It adds a bit more to the developer side. Okay, so let me show you. I'm showing you this because this is another way of you guys seeing how websites that you work every single day work and how easy it is to create. The thing that adds in more professionalism to the website that you already use is the GUI, the basic user interface. Okay, so the password is outer header. So if I input that, okay, it will go, and if you input wrongly, it will give you this error and alert. Okay, so let's say yes, and it gives this logic thing, basically just on font, and say yes, yes, and it gives you this basic thing. Okay, so guys, I don't want to take too much of your time. This is how you can use very basic Java programming. Okay, like loops, condition. This program is merely created from system.println, conditionals, and loops. Okay, that's it. Just 3 elements. The same things we have learned up to this session. With those, you can create login interfaces. You can create systems, leads. I don't know, whatever you like. Okay, so based on this very, very simple and basic informations, you can implement your own websites, programs, security, whatever. Okay. Sorry I took too much of your time, and we went a bit over the 9:30 element. I just wanted to see you guys to see what you can do with the things you have learned, so it gets more practical. And did you guys like the presentation? Did you like the projects that we will give you soon? I'd like to hear your opinions about the projects, the assignments that we give you. Yeah, you like them? Also, just sort of survey for me, because I just wish to make sure that you guys are having a good time. First question, are you comfortable with the pace that we're proceeding. Are you comfortable with the pace? Are you comfortable with the speed we're progressing through the program? Oh, thank you. And someone asked the question. Okay, so if also, are you comfortable with the content that we're presenting every session? Are you comfortable with the lectures? Are you comfortable with the tutorials? Are they understandable for you guys? Are they digestible? Feel free to say no if you don't feel like that. You will try your best to make it more simpler and understandable. Okay, so I'm happy to hear that it's digestible and the pace is comfortable. And would you like to see more activities? So some of the activities we're considering for you guys based on the pace that we're moving on, since you're learning very well and we're very proud of it. And Sarah, are you having any issues or just feel like the pace could be a bit slower? Also, keep in mind that this is the beginning. So the more, because I was same as you one day, okay? I was same as you one day. The way that you will learn Java isn't based on your high school education, not much like that. So even if you're a quantum mechanics passionate guy, you understand very difficult terms, it wouldn't guarantee that you understand programming on the spot. So basically, Java and basically programming is practical. It's something that you learn by practice, not basically by reading. So you may understand that these are methods, these are conditions, these are printlns. So I understand what they're doing. But do you also know how to utilize them? That's the point in programming. Basically, something that we will dive more inside in the lecture 8, I assume, in the algorithm design. Okay, so that's what we wish to inspire you guys and expose you guys to be able to use functionalities rather than just memorizing what each function do, to be able to explore. So you can basically utilize the same functionality in different ways, and some are shorter, conciser, which save you your time. And it's very important because in programming, which we will later on, I'll explain later on, we have space calculation and time calculation. Basically, and the amount of time it takes for the program to debug and run the program and compile the program matters. Why? Because the programs you're doing right now are very small scale. They're very simple. But the programs that later on, if you become a software engineer or an artificial intelligence expert, they'll be thousands of lines. So if you write bad, if you don't write concise and brief, if you don't write well, same as we had this session, how to do a better programming style, same as this session. If you don't do those, the program will take unnecessary time to compile. So your program will be slow, okay? So it may even crash on certain systems. So it's important to learn the concise ways to implement the same functionality using the things you already know. Not making it hard, but actually making it very simple, as all simple ideas are powerful. And the opposite, all powerful ideas are very simple. Okay, guys, so I hope you're having fun with the sessions. Hope you're liking the sessions. Feel free to invite your friends if you like to add more to the community. We'd like that. If you have any opinions, any suggestions, anything you'd like to see from us, feel free to ask us. We're trying to add more activities for you guys, like adding a step-by-step project, same as this, helping you to create something as large scale as this, step by step with easy intuition and function that you already know. And we'll try to help you guys to implement the STEM, physics and mathematics inside the programming. We'll try to help you guys to learn how programming algorithms are different from mathematics algorithms. We'll try to help you guys to be able to design and implement them. We'll try to help you guys be able to explore programming in other fields like AI, as we'll have in part 2 of our course. And we'll try our best to have more projects and competition for you guys, okay? So it will help you get a sense of competition, a sense of creative freedom, and more practice. most important, more practice for you guys. Okay, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry I took 30 minutes extra on your time. I hope you're enjoying the sessions. Feel free to inform us of any issues you might have. Feel free, and these are your meetings, these are your sessions, these are all for you. Thank you for joining us. If you have no further questions, and you're free to leave, and after you leave, I'll end the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice night. Have a nice weekend.